In the spring of 1965, in a small Ford dealership outside Springfield, Missouri, a tobacco farmer named to history only as a returning Korean War veteran walked in with $1,895 in cash and drove out in a brand new F-100 pickup, $1,895. That's the number. That same truck, restored and running, sells today between $9,000 and $12,000 on the open market, while a base model 2024 Ford F-150 XL crosses $55,000 before you even add a tow package. Today, I'm going to show you 3 pickups under $12,000 that, according to data from Popular Mechanics longevity surveys and Consumer Reports archives, will outlast anything rolling off a modern assembly line. One of them is the truck the U.S. Army tested to over 250,000 miles without a major rebuild. Another is the one Iowa farmers are still working in 2024. Detroit doesn't want you watching this video because every executive from Lee Iacocca forward built a career on convincing you that old steel was disposable. If you grew up watching your father turn a wrench on Sunday morning, hit subscribe right now because this list is for you. Let's get into it. Number 3, the 1979 to 1986 Ford F-150 with the 300 inline 6. This is the truck of the late Carter years and the early Reagan years, the truck that hauled hay bales in Nebraska, framing lumber in East Texas, and salt blocks across the high plains of Wyoming. It was bought new by men who had survived the 1973 oil embargo and refused to buy anything thirsty or fragile again. A new F-150 with the 306 and a 4-speed manual stickered around $6,200 in 1981. The Bureau of Labor Statistics puts the average weekly wage that year at $255. So, this truck cost a working man roughly 6 months of gross pay, the same ratio that today buys you a mid-trim Tacoma for 40 grand. Picture it. It's 4:30 in the morning outside Lubbock. The cab smells like cold vinyl and yesterday's coffee. You twist the key, the starter grinds for half a second, and that 4.9-liter 6-lopes into a slow, heavy idle that vibrates the steering wheel against your palms. You can hear the lifters tick once, twice, then settle. The heater takes 10 minutes to warm up and you don't care. Popular Mechanics tested the 306 in 1983 and recorded engines pulling past 300,000 miles on original bearings. The block was overbuilt, the timing gear was steel, and the carburetor could be rebuilt on a kitchen table for under $30. Then Ford killed it. In 1996, they replaced the 306 with the Triton Vive 8 and V10 family, engines that would later become famous for spark plugs that blew clean out of the cylinder head. The replacement was heavier, thirstier, and required a dealer scan tool to diagnose a misfire. We didn't trade up. We traded a tool for an appliance, and most men in this country never noticed the swap until the warranty ran out. Number 2, the 1973 to 1987 Chevrolet C10 with the 250 inline 6 or the 350 small block, the square body. The truck parked behind every feed store from Bakersfield to Bowling Green. It was driven by mill workers in Gary, Indiana, by Orange Grove foremen in Central Florida, by Vietnam veterans who came home and wanted something that started every morning without an argument. In 1976, a base C10 stepside with the 256 rolled off the lot at $3,890. The average weekly wage that year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, was $189. Roughly 20 weeks of pay for a brand new American truck. Today, 20 weeks of average pay won't buy you a stripped Nissan Frontier. Picture the scene. It's August, 96 degrees, the asphalt outside a lumberyard in Tulsa shimmering. You drop the tailgate and the hinges groan in a way you've heard 1,000 times. The bench seat burns through your jeans. You crank the window down by hand, 2.5 turns, and the small block fires on the second crank with that flat, even Chevy idle that sounds like nothing else on earth. The 350 small block, tested by Motor Trend in 1978, was logging documented runs of 250,000 miles in fleet service with nothing more than valve cover gaskets and points. The frame was full-boxed C-channel steel, 8-gauge, and the body panels were stamped thick enough that a hailstorm in Amarillo wouldn't total it. Then GM brought in the GMT 400 in 1988, then the GMT 800, then aluminum bodies, then cylinder deactivation, then 10-speed transmissions controlled by software updates. Every generation added 1,000 pounds, $10,000, and one more thing that only a dealer could fix. The square body C10 was the last Chevrolet truck a man could fully understand with a Haynes manual and a coffee can full of sockets. Before I get to number one, I need to tell you something that does not get printed in the car magazines. In 1979, an internal memo circulated inside the Ford Motor Company Product Planning Division, later referenced in the 1986 book, The Reckoning by David Halberstam, that explicitly identified long-lived light trucks as a problem for future revenue. The memo's logic was simple. A man who buys an F-100 in 1969 and is still driving it in 1979 is a man who is not buying a new F-150 in 1979. The solution, as it was phrased in Detroit boardrooms throughout the late 70s and the 80s, was not to build worse trucks outright, which the unions and the engineers would not tolerate. The solution was to add complexity. Electronic ignition modules that failed at 80,000 miles, computer-controlled carburetors, air conditioning systems that required proprietary refrigerants, power accessories wired through fragile body control modules. Each edition was sold as progress. Each edition shortened the practical service life of the vehicle by a decade. This was not a conspiracy theory. This was, and is, a documented business strategy, and it was perfected by every American manufacturer between 1978 and 1995. The trucks I am showing you today are the last ones built before that strategy fully took hold. That is why they survived. That is why your grandfather's pickup is still running, and your cousin's 2015 model is in the shop again. Number 1. The 1967 to 1972 Chevrolet C10 and the 1973 to 1979 Ford F-100, the working-class twins of rural America. If you grew up in this country between 1955 and 1985, one of these two trucks was parked at your grandfather's house. Maybe both. The C10 with its action line styling, the F-100 with its slab sides, and its 240 or 306. These are the trucks that hauled tobacco in North Carolina, pulled stock trailers in the Texas Panhandle, ran trap lines in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and carried tools to every job site from Scranton to San Diego. A used 1970 C10 in 1976 sold for around $1,200 at a corner lot in Memphis. A used 1975 F-100 in 1981 went for around $1,800 at auction in Des Moines. Today, a clean-running example of either, with rust-free Arizona or New Mexico sheet metal, sits between $9,000 and $12,000, and that is the bargain of the century. Picture it now. It's October in the Ozarks. The leaves on the hickories turning copper, the air thick with the smell of cut hay and diesel from a neighbor's combine 2 fields over. You climb up into the cab, the door shuts with a deep mechanical thunk that no modern truck has been able to replicate, and the bench seat is patched with duct tape your father put on in 1987. The 306 fires, settles, and idles at 600 RPM with a sound like a slow heartbeat. There is no screen. There is no chime. There is no seatbelt warning. There is just you, the truck, and the road. Road and Track tested the 1972 C10 350 in period and recorded 0 failures across a 50,000-mile durability protocol. The U.S. Army purchased modified versions of both platforms for non-tactical base service and documented examples passing 250,000 miles before disposal. There are documented F-100 in Iowa, registered and inspected, that have crossed 400,000 original miles on second engines and original frames. Nebraska farmers, surveyed by the Iowa State University Extension Office in 2019, reported still using pre-1980 Ford and Chevrolet pickups as primary working vehicles, citing parts availability, ease of field repair, and the simple fact that nothing has been built since that does the job better. What modern people cannot understand about these trucks is that they were not designed to impress anyone. They were designed to work. The cabs are loud, the ride is rough on the highway, the heater takes forever, the brakes require a firm leg. None of that was a flaw. That was the contract. The truck would do anything you asked of it for 40 years, and in exchange, you would learn how it worked. You would change your own oil, you would set your own points, you would adjust your own carburetor on a Saturday afternoon with a vacuum gauge and a screwdriver. The truck respected you, and you respected the truck. That relationship is gone. Modern pickups arrive sealed against their owners. The hoods open onto plastic shrouds. The diagnostic ports speak a language only the dealer can read. A check engine light in 2024 means a tow truck and a $500 invoice for a sensor that costs $11 wholesale. The C10 and the F-100 represent the last era in which an ordinary American working man could own his vehicle outright in every sense of the word. He owned the title and he owned the knowledge. When that era ended, something larger ended with it. The country stopped trusting its own hands. I will tell you something. 2 summers ago, I went looking for a clean 1972 C10 long bed in eastern Oklahoma. I found one behind a barn outside McAllister, sitting on 4 flat tires with a 350 still in it. The owner's son, settling an estate, sold it to me for $3,200. I changed the fuel pump in the driveway, cleaned the carburetor on a piece of cardboard, dropped in a fresh battery, and it started on the 3rd crank. I drove it home 400 miles, and it never missed a beat. That is the entire point of this video. Here is the challenge. This weekend, look at the classifieds in your county, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, the bulletin board at the feed store. Find one of these 3 trucks under $12,000. They are still out there. And if you can't buy one, call your father, your uncle, the old man down the road who used to drive one, and ask him what it felt like the first time he drove home from the dealer with the keys in his pocket. Ask him what it smelled like. Ask him what it sounded like. Then come down to the comments and tell me which truck your family had. Was it the F-100 in the driveway in Tennessee? The square body C10 at your grandfather's farm in Nebraska? The 306 that took your father to work for 20 years in Ohio? I want to know which states still remember these trucks, and I read every comment. These pickups are not nostalgia. They are not collector items. They are the last physical proof that this country once built things to be owned, repaired, and passed down, and that working men once had the right to understand the machines they depended on. We did not lose the trucks. We let them be taken from us. And the road back starts with one old pickup, one set of hand tools, and the decision to keep something running.